the StreamYard thing is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And we're live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Whiskey Charlie, the War Game Chat, our live show every month on YouTube. I'm Mo from Mo's Game Table, and joining me tonight is my co-host, everyone's favorite Gimp with the Limp, the Gimpy Gamer, Nate Rogers.
What's going on, guys? Good to see you all again.
Good to see you. And the War Game Wizard from Oz, Kev Sharp, cannot join us tonight. He is actually on vacation, so he will maybe try to jump in the chat, but he is not able to get in with a good connection on his vacation to join in with us. But also, welcome to the audience. It's always great having you guys in and the interactions and the questions you bring. Joining us tonight, we have the Herminator, Hermann Luttmann. He's going to talk about some of his games and game design and just wargaming in general, and just a whole bunch of goodness on games and what he's playing now, things like that. Thanks a lot for joining us, Hermann.
Hi, everybody.
So the first question I got to ask you is, how's everything going for you right now? Keeping busy?
As far as game designing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really busy. It's funny because I think I have everything programmed out for the entire year, and then things just kind of fly into my studio here. It's amazing. Like the whole Worthington thing within in Magnificent Style just came out of the blue.
Yeah,
it was just one of those weird things. I saw Grant's interview with on War and Pieces with Rob and Dan, and then I never worked with Worthington before, so I just happened to write Grant, and I said, hey, that was a really good interview you did. Maybe one day we can get together on something. And he goes, yeah, sure, of course, later in the year. And then the next week he wrote me, he goes, I just played in Magnificent Style. Do you still have the rights to it? I go, yeah. Can I do it? It was just like that. And it turned around so quickly. It's amazing.
That's awesome. That's really great.
That was an unplanned, few weeks of work that I did not schedule for, and things fall behind. What can I say?
Well, when he says, hey, we'll work on that in another 6 months, it's going to happen in about an hour, because his year was not very long at all. So now, his concept of time is a little different.
So, yeah, it's been great. It's been very busy.
You're working on something now, right?
Right behind me. You caught me before, right?
Yeah. You want to tease it a little bit? Can you share anything on it, or
secret project?
Yeah, he's very insistent that I tell him exactly what I have planned for him. So we agreed that I would do a Western Front World War I game, and but I wanted to do something obviously, like very different. So I said I have this idea to use. I don't know if you guys know what the river system is. If you've ever played Conan or Batman Gotham Chronicles, I think it's called.
Wait, are you talking about like the stamina type system from Conan?
I'm talking about where your action points are spread along a track, and your units sit. So the unit all the way to the left is worth 1 AP to activate it, and the next one's 2.
Oh, yeah. Kind of the bad guy player. On that one. So you can activate the same bad unit, but it's going to cost you much more if you keep activating.
He goes to the end, and thus costs a lot more money. So just occurred to me that would be kind of an interesting way for a player to manage different armies. What was that?
Sorry, did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got 70s music coming in here.
It's a shitty text message. I have now muted it. My apologies.
Oh, because I was going to start text messaging it then, so that way we could keep hearing it.
So I just thought that would be a good challenge for a wargamer to manage his armies as they. Hello, is that the Gimpy Gal?
Yes, she just wanted to say hi to everybody.
The famous Gimpy Gal.
She's getting ready to put the kids in bed. Sorry, I've interrupted you twice now, Herman. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. It's all right. So I just thought that would be an interesting way for a wargamer to have to manage his armies that they activate, and to manage this track of cost. So that you can't just automatically use the same army over and over again. It becomes more and more logistically expensive to do that. So
I like that.
Yeah, so I've been toying with that, and I have a kind of a dice system that I kind of used with Race to the Sea and Steamroller, where you bid for actions, and the armies have a rifle factor, a machine gun factor, an artillery factor, so you get that real feel for World War I as well. Mm-hmm. As you know, I'm Mr. Theme. If I have a World War I game, game. I don't want it to look and play like it's a World War II game or a Civil War game. I want it to feel like it's a World War I game. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. I think Grant wants it in 2 days or something. I don't know.
Grant's time, that's what, 2 hours?
So that's yeah. And it's funny. I don't know about other designers out there, but I when I have an idea, I kind of start jotting stuff down on my notebook here, and then eventually I build a kit, and I kind of hammer away at it, and I'm almost inevitably disappointed the first time I start moving stuff around. Right? It's like, oh, this isn't working the way I envisioned it. Oh, this is really tough. This is stupid. I should just bag this whole thing. You know? And then you hit that one spot where something clicks, you know, and then all of a sudden it starts going, right? So now I've just been working on this thing because you get in that groove where you go, oh, that was cool. How do I accentuate that? Oh, and if I use that over here and then over here, then those two work together. This is great, you know. And then all of a sudden that's all I'm working on because you get into this. I guess it's a creative lane, you know, where you're just going. So that's what I'm in. That's why I was turned around when you
I know.
I was in there going, wait a minute, if I do this.
So how long does it take you, just out of curiosity, from jumble in your mind to finished product there actually on the table?
So this has been to get to the point where I have it now, which is a map and some pieces I made up, and it's been a couple weeks. I actually have the West Point Atlas map of the Western Front in 1914. So I just downloaded that. I blew it up, and then I just put the guys right on there and put squares and stuff, and I'm working on that like that.
Oh, so you just take a grid overlay and just throw it right down over top of the map?
Yeah, well, it's a really, those West Point maps are really good because they give you the terrain texture without too much detail, but they give you a good idea where everything is. And this one very nicely has exactly, I don't know if you know, the West Point maps have the colored box, you know, the outline where the army's deployed and all that. So that's really convenient. It's right on the map where they deploy. Yeah. I mean, it just makes it so much nicer.
Now, is there something that you're using like as a tangible asset to represent that extra cost for activating units? Is it like oil points, or like what's the resource point?
No, and that's the thing. You want to try to get those factors in there without getting into counting resources. And well, I mean, that's for me, for my designs, right? Especially like for a Worthington game. Worthington games tend to be more accessible, right? They tend to be a little easier to play. So there are no specific, you know, resources that you would pay to do that. The AP cost is supposed to generically represent that. There are other event cards, of course. It's one of my designs got to have event cards, right? That will, you know, like for example, there's a German General Staff card that if you purchase the card and put it out there, you can activate any army for only 1 AP, regardless of where it's at. So that just abstractly represents, you know, the German General Staff really getting on the ball and getting an army going that they really need to get going. So
yeah,
this way to invent that.
Yeah, you kind of punch through with them at one turn, and then next turn you play the card, so you can continue the breakthrough that you started on the previous turn. Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the Allied players have a German fatigue and logistics problem card, which they can play on the Germans, which would make things more expensive than normal. So, and by the way, the more you play, so to answer the other half of that question is, the longer you play, every time if you bid the same number, there's no activity. That's called a lull, which kind of what I did with Race to the Sea and Steamroller. And what that does is, I mean, you have to increase the cost of one of those slots by 1 AP. So what happens is, as the game goes on, those AP slots become more and more expensive. So it becomes harder and harder to actually activate armies. So naturally, the Western Front kind of grinds to a halt because of logistical problems.
So even the ones on the far left of the track are getting more expensive, not just the ones at the back.
Right. So the whole front will grind down due to fatigue and logistical problems.
Okay, I kind of get what you mean. So at the start of the game, just as an example, you might be able to activate 10 units, but 3-4 turns in, you might only be able to activate 3 or 4 units because the cost has gone up.
Right. So then what happens? Then what happens is guys start entrenching because it doesn't cost as much to bombard or rally if you're in an entrenchment. So it becomes cheaper just to entrench your guys. So the entrenchments naturally start forming. I have no idea if this is all going to work. This is all theoretical, of course.
I mean, it sounds logical.
Yeah.
Of course, it sounds good while we're talking about it, but getting it to actual table and having it work are two different things.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And then, you know, when you're plugging away at it and something clicks and you see it work, it's like it gets that's my high. You know, I mean, that's great.
Now,
like
for Gimpy though,
work is finally paid off.
I gotta ask: have you thought about solo? Do you have any thoughts in that realm for it?
For this game?
Yeah.
Yes, I told Grant. I said whatever I come up with, it'll have a solo mode. So I'm designing the game first for 2 players, and then I'm going to worry about, okay, well, now that I got this functioning, how do I do this as a solo thing? So that'll come.
John's asking, what game are we talking about? Because World War I is his secret fetish. So could you give a name to it, or it's?
Oh, hey, John. Yeah, thanks for asking. It's a game I'm working on for Worthington. I guess it would be my next one. So it's called Death by Flags and Trumpets, the Western Front, 1914. That's the title of one of Max Hastings' chapters in his great book, Catastrophe. And I thought it was very, I like poetic titles. I'm sorry. I'm a romantic like that, you know? So
hey, it's compelling. It's compelling. It gets people's attention.
It talks about the futility of these guys, you know, going to war and thinking it was still, you know, Napoleonic warfare, and wearing their colorful uniforms and having their flags and their bugles and all that kind of thing, and then facing machine guns. But so yeah, that's one of the projects I have on the table behind me. So that'll be a while. But thanks for asking about it.
So what got you into design? What got you into game design? What prompted that, lit that fire with you?
Well, I actually had dabbled in it, back in the 80s, but I was doing miniatures then. So I was playing Napoleonic miniatures.
That makes sense, because one of your first games was the Wheatfield, Gettysburg.
Well, yeah, that's the story I'm getting to. So eventually, we went into Civil War, you know, 15 mil. We had thousands of castings. It was great. So I designed every miniature gamer designs their own miniatures rules at some point, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys play a lot of miniatures, but any miniature.
Well, not those type.
What type do you play?
X-Wing.
X-Wing, GW products. So not.
I play Warcry all the time, and
there you go.
And I'm getting into Age of Sigmar, so I'm getting into that stuff. I actually like their board games better than the miniatures rules, like Blackstone.
Man after my own heart.
Blackstone Fortress, Beast Grave, all that stuff is great.
Blood Bowl. Tell me you like Blood Bowl.
Yes.
I just finished painting my undead team. Actually, my little boy's undead team.
Yeah.
He's called dibs on that. But yeah, that stuff.
I'm a big 40K fan. I've been like that. I played epic scale 40K, 6 millimeter. They don't even make it anymore. It was.
I used to have that.
In epic scale, I still have my entire orc army painted. I still have it in there. It's the only thing I didn't sell off. And I'm just hoping that someday they'll come back with it. You know.
It'll be a long time because you can't even find it now.
No.
And what hurts me, I had it. I had the original set of that when they first came out with it.
Right.
But I mean, my brother and I were like 12 at the time, and life goes on and everything. And I have no idea what happened to that set. I'm sure my parents threw it away thinking it was nothing, not understanding that now that would be a collector's item that somebody would pay a good chunk of money for.
50 cents at a garage sale for 50 cents. That's what it was.
Yeah, they probably did.
I always like that scale better because I like the epic feel of putting out, brigades and regiments worth of Space Marines and orcs and all that, not just a couple of figures and then you fight one tank, one land raider against one battle wagon. You'd have whole, table full of miniatures. The same thing with Napoleonics. I mean, I didn't like 25 millimeter Napoleonics either, because the old guard was 1 battalion.
Well, it's not to mention the fact that they got way too expensive. Their prices just went through the roof. I remember when I first started looking into 40K when I was a kid, you could get a tank for like $20 or $25.
Right.
Now it's something like $60 to $100 for a tank.
Yeah.
Their costs have gone way past inflation. Right. And some of that Forge World stuff, you're looking at $1,000.
Yep.
For a model.
And I resorted to playing it on I play Sanctus Reach on the computer, and Sanctus Reach is a beautiful rendering of the miniatures game. It's so much fun. I play that all the time. You play it too?
I got a good buddy. Might be this guy here who gave me a code for it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do, Mo? You bought like a big gamer bundle or something like that.
Yeah, I had
right?
a bundle of games, and I'm like, "Hey, Gimpy plays this." So I texted him, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, you play these games, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" And I'm like, "Well, hey, you want a game?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." So I'm like, "Here, take this one. Here, take this one. Here, take this." I gave him like 3 or 4 games, and he's like, "This is awesome, thanks, man." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem."
Well, Sanctus Reach is great because it feels like a miniatures game, and it's turn-based. And if you I don't know if you ever like zoomed in all the way on those guys, but they're great. They're rendered so well.
Yeah, they did a good job with it. I agree with you that their box sets too are the way to go.
Absolutely.
It's much more cost effective. You've got a game in a box. You can expand it as you wish. Blackstone Fortress was great. I didn't try what was it, Silver Tower. I want to try that one at some point, but
yeah, I
similar.
Almost bought that. I'm going to buy it eventually because Blackstone Fortress and Silver Tower are very closely related. As far that activation mechanic with the dice is brilliant. I love that thing. I'm going to steal that.
I'll tell you, if you like these types of games, I highly, highly recommend. It's my favorite miniatures game, boxed miniatures game, Core Space. Definitely check it out.
Is that the one with the build-up terrain, right in the walls?
Yes.
Oh, that thing looks. Did you do a playthrough? Right, that was you, right?
I've done 2 playthroughs on it, actually.
My friend Roger's got that game, and I said, Roger, we got to play that thing. That looks awesome.
It's got I don't want to get off track here, but it's got a nice escalation system with the enemy. The way that you can play the game works in every fashion. You can play it opposed, like a skirmish miniatures game. You can play it solo. You can play it cooperatively. You can play it as a campaign. You can create your own campaigns. Yeah. There's even now fan-made rules to incorporate like the minis from Nemesis if you want to have like an Aliens feel to it, like they're coming into it. It works almost in any direction you want to use it, and you can use the terrain for other games if you want to. The only problem is what's that?
It's gorgeous.
It is.
Yeah.
It just takes a while to set up. That's the pain in the ass with it. To get everything plugged in and looking good on the table, it's going to take you half hour to an hour just to get it all plugged together, but it's well worth the effort.
Joe says his 10 out of 10 in magnificent style comment from BGG was used on the Kickstarter page. That was cool. Oh. It's the game that got him into solo games. There's no turning back after that. So you have.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
You ruined this guy. Made him into all solo, big solo gamer.
Yeah, that was well. Before I get off the track, I'll get back to the magnificent style. But to answer your question from 15 minutes ago. So yes, I got into board game design via miniatures because I became a fan of Victory Point Games' style of games because I had very little time to game, so their games fit perfectly with what I was doing. And we were just talking online, and he asked me if I ever played System 7 Napoleonics. I don't know if you guys know what System 7 Napoleonics is. There were cardboard counters made by GDW, and you could play them. They were all colored in the proper, uniform colors, and they had the piping colors, but they were just cardboard counters. So he said, "Yeah, I said, oh, I love that game." And he did too. He goes, "Oh, I wish we could do something like that." And I go, "Well, I have a set of Civil War miniatures rules we could convert if you want to try that." So that's how that whole thing started. Gettysburg to Wheatfield is just my Civil War miniatures rules using counters.
Nice.
So that got it started, and then after that, what's the second game I did? I think it was.
Was it High and Tight or?
Oh, High and Tight, my poor little. That was my one bummy game. I still I'm a big baseball fan.
Then you had that other.
A little bit too abstract with that, but.
Then you had that other little zombie game. I think it was. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it.
Was it Dawn of something?
Yeah, I forget what it was called. Something about zombies.
I think there's 3 editions of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dawn of the Zeds came out because I played Zulu on the Ramparts, and I liked it a lot. And it just dawned on me that I said, "Oh, this would make a great zombie game. Maybe I should ask Alan about it." I go, that's, it's kind of stupid. I'm sure somebody's already thought of that. It's so obvious. Right? So I wrote to him and go, I know somebody's already got this in the pipeline, but I was thinking they would make a great zombie game. And he goes, oh, no, nobody's thought of that yet. I said, you got to be kidding me. It's so obvious to me. And that's how that whole started.
And Dan is asking from No Enemies Here, he's asking, are there any zombie games in the future with Worthington, being it we're just talking about Dawn of the Zeds?
Well, not with. I don't think I have. Well, okay. Is that Dan's shady way of getting me to talk about another game?
Probably.
Yeah, not with Worthington. Grant's already asked me for when is the next and what's going to be the next In Magnificent Style series game. I said we haven't even made this one yet.
Charge of the Light Brigade.
I don't want to, I want to change it up a little bit. So how about a fantasy game, like a Game of Thrones type of thing, where you're this household and these horrible creatures have seized this citadel, and you have to go do that, the frontal charge and get them out of there before they wipe out the town or something like that.
Well, I mean, you got the Lord of the Rings show. Why not the Battle of Pelennor Fields?
That's true. Or the Siege of what was the other?
Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, something like that. And to be honest with you, and I know other designers, I know David Thompson mentions this too, that I talk to him about it all the time, is that you have to do a non-historical game every once in a while just to get your designing juices flowing, so you're not restricted to.
You're not boxed into history.
You're not boxed in, exactly. So like with fantasy and sci-fi, you can just let it rip, and you could justify anything. Fred and I used to laugh all the time when we did Invaders from Dimension X, and we were just laughing because we were just justifying every role by saying, well, that's the way they did it in the Galactic planet. It's just, that's the way it works. So, so the next Worthington will probably some kind of fantasy. I have some ideas for that.
Nice.
Was it Worthington that had the cowboy game, the Western game?
Yeah,
they were. Mo, do you remember what the name of that is?
I think it's called Cowboys, isn't
it? I can't remember, but I was going to ask if you had any part of that, because I like the Western theme. I don't think there's enough out there in that category. I'd like to see more people broaching it, but broaching it more in that like hex encounter or hex and miniature type gameplay.
I know what you mean, and I agree with you. The Western theme. Have you played Western Legends?
No, I have not played Western Legends.
That one has pretty good theming, but it's not. It's a Euro game basically. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a hex encounter war game.
Cowboys 2.
Western theming. But
Cowboys 2.
It would be kind of fun to do a posse versus gang type of thing, right?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Cowboys 2.
Add it to the list.
Actually, they've got one. Cowboys 1 and Cowboys 2. So that's because they've got like 43 games that they put on Kickstarter. Cowboys 1 was first, and then Cowboys 2 was just done recently.
So Cowboys 2 has already gone to Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cowboys 2 is their new one. It's going to come out. I don't know when exactly. They got a lot of stuff coming out.
Yeah.
To answer Dan's question, there is a zombie-ish game coming out with GMT, and if you read the last GMT newsletter, you would have seen in the upcoming P500s, a Hermann Luttmann design.
Your name, yeah.
Yeah.
So zombie-ish?
Yeah, I refuse to use the word zombie in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So are they undead or not?
Where are the shades? The shades are actually the monsters. Okay.
Okay.
They're not technically zombies, but it's an 4-player co-op asymmetrical horror game.
Oh wow.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah, so it occurs on Plum Island, which is an actual place on the eastern end of Long Island.
Plum Island?
Yes.
You have to throw in a little Easter egg for Hannibal Lecter somewhere in there.
Well, there are a lot of Easter eggs in there.
Nice.
And I mean, the basic premise is there's this horrible hurricane. There's this scientific lab with doing weird kind of experiments on one end of the island. All the power goes out. All the safety measures fall apart. A whole bunch of thousands of people get sprayed and poisoned and toxified, and they turn into these monsters, and they start marching down the island. And you guys, we each control a different part of the island's infrastructure. So one guy plays the cops, the Plum Island Constabulary. Somebody else is in charge of the lab personnel. Somebody else is in charge of the town that's at the bottom of the island, and somebody plays the neighborhood watch. So you each have special powers and characters, and you're trying to work together to stop these things from taking over the island. But it's semi-co-op, so everybody's scoring their own victory points.
Nice.
So you lose together, and then you're trying also to be very selfish at the same time without losing the game. You know, to defeat the I almost said that, to defeat the shades, and be the guy with the best victory points, to do the best job.
So you're not necessarily working against your fellow team players or your fellow players, but you're not wanting them to succeed too well.
Right, and that's one of the things I like about semi-co-op games and asymmetrical powers is that there's little ways that you can stab Fred over here or Nate over here, without being too obvious about it. But at some point, when you think you're going to win the game, you might want to really nail them down so you can grab some victory points. So
you do realize that if the couple playing is like a couple like me and Gippy's gal, there is no semi-co-op. There's just competitive. That's all she's interested in. She'll lose the game if it means she beats me.
She'll open the gates to let them through.
Yeah.
Don't win.
Honey, don't do that. You're going to kill us all, but you won't win. I'm like, okay. Love you too, baby.
Co-opetition. It brings out the worst in everybody.
That's right.
Mo, you're married. You know how it is, brother.
Oh, I know. So now, you talked about your design. How about development? How many games have you worked on as a developer? And how is that mental switch, going from design to development? Is that a big switch? And how has that helped you as a designer?
Yeah, development's really tough. I actually don't do it I get asked a lot to do it, and I just don't have the time to do it because it does require a lot of time. I use Fred a lot, Fred Manzo. He's terrific because he never lets our familiarity get in the way. He always tries to break my games, which is what I demand, what I ask of developers. So what was the last game I developed? I think it was Fred's game, Escape from Hades.
Escape from Hades, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's on my list of shame. Not like in a bad way, like how you got your list of stuff that's to be played.
Yes.
Yeah, that a couple of your games are actually on my my list of shame. That and what is it called? Mets 18 something.
Oh, at any cost.
At any cost. Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
Both of those are on my need to play, need to film list.
Yeah, that's well, at any cost, that's the heaviest war game I've ever done. That was a lot of work. It's also the one I'm most proud of as far as just the amount of research that went into it, and getting the feeling of the Franco-Prussian War and that campaign out of the game system, without making it overly, so complex.
Mm-hmm. But I really like that the chip pull mechanic for it. That's one. I read up about the game. That's the reason I bought the game, was because it had the chip pull mechanic, and that works wonders for solo play.
Perfect.
It's almost designed for solo play.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Gives you that random factor.
Yeah, the whole thing, when that it's part of the Blind Swords family of games, I guess you could call it, because I never leave everything alone. Everything's a variation of something else. But the whole concept of Blind Swords, including that chip pull system, is that it allows you to have fun gaming, and also I think the chip pull mechanic, if used correctly, is actually more realistic as far as a military situation, right? So it accomplishes two things. It makes the game more fun and exciting, and it also is more realistic. So when you build those chits, that's where you get all that flavor of that particular battle or campaign. It's how you design those chits. And the chits are always like, they never make you do anything, but they kind of guide you to doing things historically.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's a tough tightrope walk, but I'm very happy with it, and that's why I got people, a lot of comments I get about the Civil War series. They go, oh, this really feels like the Civil War. It's that intangible effect.
I'll be right back. My little girl's asking me to tuck her into bed. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
I'll be right back. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. I will return.
That's great.
He's got to go play Papa.
Yeah.
So continue on with your development experience.
The development part of it, right? We got off track a lot, though.
I know.
But the development is really, really tough. But I said, Lamps Are Going Out was the one I did before that, I believe. That was a brilliant design by Kurt Ullman, and I kind of he submitted that to the Victory Point Games way back in the day, and as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, this is a great game. I have to do this for him, and get this published. But yes, the mindset's totally different. I don't know that designers are good developers necessarily. I think developers, it's just a different skill set of trying to. I think if you think like a designer, you're not necessarily a good developer. I think you have to think more like a gamer. Like, I saw David Thompson pop in before, and I'm sure David will tell you this too, that I'm actually terrible at my own games.
A lot of designers say that.
Because your mindset's totally different. When you're playing the game, all I'm doing is analyzing the mechanics. I'm just thinking about the mechanics all the time. I'm like, does that feel right now? I don't know. Maybe that modifier should be a little bit more or less, or whatever. I'm never thinking about how to win the game, game, how to play it the best. It's just I'm analyzing it from a different angle.
Yeah.
And developers have to go in there and look for ways that, like Fred's very good at just doing bizarre things to try to see if the system will handle it. And he's also good at finding that one little thing that doesn't quite work, which sometimes can change a whole design. So, development work is really important. And I think I'm almost at the point now where I can recognize other people's designs that haven't been developed properly. I think, the first time you play it, even sometimes when you read the rules, I could say, they didn't develop at all.
Yeah, Dave's comment, he says, yep, totally agree. You play the game as designed with the feeling you're trying to evoke. Developers need to break the game.
Right, exactly. And it's just a different skill set. What is my best design game?
Yeah, he wanted to know, what do you think is your best design game, as objective as possible, and what is your personal favorite design and why?
I had a feeling somebody was going to ask me that. I think the best design game. I think I'm going to have two. I'm going to cheat. I think
That's fine.
Is my best design game as far as evoking what it was supposed to evoke. Okay. The terror factor, the panic factor, getting all those zombie movie cliches into that game without, and I think what makes that game work is that the events just they flow naturally in the story of the game. They don't feel like they're just stuck in there. Somehow, that that roll of events just feels right for that game.
Yeah.
And I mean, I may have over-designed it a little bit. I think that's why when people ask me what's my favorite edition of the game, it's probably the second edition, because I still think it was still within that framework of playability. I think it was a little bit more manageable. But as far as a historical game, probably Longstreet Attacks, because I get comments from guys who are real Civil War enthusiasts all the time, and Gettysburg, of course, is the most iconic Civil War battle, and the second day is the most eventful one, certainly. And they all write to me and they go, "God damn, this game feels like the real thing." And that was the whole idea of designing Blind Swords to begin with, was that one of the things that frustrated me about war games is I wanted them to play like the military history. That I was a military history buff first. So I would do research on various subjects, and I'd be like, well, how come my war game doesn't feel like this? Like, how come that can't happen in my war game? How come my troops don't just abandon that position because they thought they were getting outflanked, so they decided to retreat? Happened all the time.
Yeah.
Friendly fire happened all the time. Guys didn't move all the time. So why?
Not with Marines. Marines always do what we're supposed to, 24/7.
So, commanders made mistakes. They didn't do everything that you asked them to do. They disagreed with you. So I said, why? How do I get that into a game? And that's the system I came up with. And like I said, so Longstreet Attacks, people keep telling me it feels like the second day of Gettysburg. Things happened there that could have happened at the battle or did happen at the battle.
Now, see, with what you're talking about there, though, is in my time with war games, I've noticed that between, the simple war games and the most complex chrome-filled war games, that I think some designers feel like the stuff that you're talking about, all those little what ifs, that if they put in a rule for all of that, that it's going to make their game better. And it doesn't always necessarily do it. More complexity and more rules and special one-offs doesn't necessarily always improve it. It just makes it more complex.
And I totally agree with you. I say that all the time. And I'm sure David will agree with this one too, is that it's much easier to write a 100-page war game rule book and throw everything in there than it is to do it in 20 pages and make it feel right. And you're right. I always, when people ask me about that, I say, the easiest thing in the world is design a war game, because all you do is add another modifier.
Yeah.
Add another mechanic, add another modifier, add another this. The idea of streamlining it down to get that effect in a playable format. I mean, look, the bottom line is these are games. We're supposed to be playing games. And if you never get that game to the table, or you only get it down there once a year, what's the point?
Yeah.
So the idea is to try to get the games on the table and get people playing it and let them have fun. I mean, what's the point of playing if you're going to have fun?
True.
To be fair, I think there are certain war games that you would only want to bring to the table once a year, just because it is such a massive undertaking. Something like A World at War by GMT. That's a
vacation
right?
game.
Yeah,
get your 2
that
weeks
is something.
Off and go play that for 2 weeks.
you're taking time and you're dedicating to that, and that's fine. You don't always want to put in that much effort. I'm actually in the process of that. I'm setting up Absolute Victory. I've been doing it for days. I'm in there figuring out which counters go where, getting them all set up. I'm like halfway through setup at this point, and I'm really looking forward to playing it. But I wouldn't want to have to do this with every single game that I play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played La Bataille de Moscova for an entire weekend back in the day. The La Bataille system was battalion level Napoleonics, and it was a monster. And I'm just not into that anymore.
Well, we don't have the time. Not everybody has the time to set those games up. I mean, just set up alone. I mean, how many times do people? I've heard this mentioned online a bunch. And I'm sure everyone here has experienced that. How many times you're like, yeah, I'm going to play that. You set it up and you go, okay, maybe I'll play it tomorrow. Yeah, screw it. Right. I'm putting it all away.
Yeah.
You get tired after an hour and a half of setup.
Or you find out after 2 turns in 6 hours that you played something horribly wrong and you have to start all over again.
I just broke my entire game. Now I got to restart.
Yeah. I won't do that. If I mess up a rule, I just keep the hell going. The way I figure it,
yeah,
I'm going to mess up on both sides. I'm going to make mistakes for myself and against myself. I figure God's going to make sure it balances.
But there's some guys that you play with who won't let you get away with that.
Yeah.
And that's why solitaire's better.
Yeah.
I make my own rules. Yeah, I'll tell you though, in X-Wing, that's one of the few games that I play or used to play rather. My store still doesn't allow us to come back and play. Used to play regularly with other people. And X-Wing is one of the very few miniatures games out there that the majority of the community is very welcoming, very friendly. Everyone says fly casual. We're here to have fun. It's not a big deal. I think I've had 2 guys in the entire time that I've played it, all the years I've played it, that were rude and jackasses that I wouldn't play again.
Right.
One guy, he actually threw his template down so hard that it shattered.
Wow.
Flew off the table and went and hit someone else next to us. And I was like this close to calling the judge to call him out on it, get him DQ'd. And I'm like, but I'm kicking his ass anyway, and he's getting ready to lose. I'll just finish beating him.
Right.
Quickly.
And yeah, I talk about that all the time too. Is that for me, I don't like tournament games at all, because it gets into this idea of cold games and hot games. Cold games are like chess-like, right? They're the old Russian campaign game. Everybody had that opening gambit move, and you could play in a tournament because everybody knew exactly do this, and this. Whereas a hot game is more emotional. You never know what's going to happen. And for me, that's the way I like to play. I like to play, so, I mean, when I started gaming, I was working 2 jobs and I had 3 kids and the whole thing. And when I gamed, I wanted escape. I wanted adventure. I wanted to be excited when I played a game. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going on a ride, and that's the way I like to play. I didn't want to have to study some strategy guide, for 2 weeks before I played a game. So
David is right. It is that fly casual is a Firefly comment.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Just fly casual.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember that scene in it.
But finish David's question though. To finish David's question. So those were the 2 games I guess that I'm most proud of as far as design. But my best designed games, I guess. But my proudest moment was actually involved at any cost. I was at Origins a couple of years ago, and my buddy Harvey was playing in a game, and I was talking to him, and I left, and some guy chased after me, and he goes, "Are you Hermann Luttmann?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I have your game at any cost, and your playbook is so good that I use it in my class to teach the classroom about the Franco-Prussian War."
Wow.
And I mean, to me, now it's funny, because he wasn't talking about the game itself necessarily. He was just talking about the playbook where it describes the history of the thing and the tactics and all that. And to me, I mean, to this day, I still remember that as my proudest moment as far as a game design, that you can actually affect people like that through a game. And not even really playing the game, just by supporting the game.
Well,
they
can actually put the game on a table and go through the playbook, and they can see it in front of their eyes.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
No, I was actually thinking earlier about asking you if you'd ever had the fanboy moment. When I first got into the hobby, there were the names that you would hear. Right. Richard Berg, Hermann Luttmann was one, and I know his name, and I'm drawing a blank. The dude did D-Day at Omaha.
John Butterfield, yeah. The names of the industry, and yours was one of the names of the industry. So I was wondering if you'd ever had the fanboy moment where the fans are coming up. Oh, Hermann Luttmann.
I'm still not used to that, because I remember the day that I thought it was going to be the coolest thing in the world to have my name on a game. I mean, that was it. That was nirvana. That was everything. And it's just amazing how things evolve from that point. I've met Ted Racer, Joe Miranda, if you go to Consum World Expo, you meet all these guys. They're all there.
Yeah.
Brian Train, Michael Ranella, bunch of guys. All great guys. They're all.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I've got to go with Mo, because the first convention I went to was when I finally got to meet Mo, and I'm kind of reserved in person. I kind of hang back and kind of watch, and Mo's not like that. He was dragging me around to everybody. Hey, have you met this guy? Come here, let me introduce you. Introduced me to everyone he had met that time. Great guy.
I was trying to help you out because you were just getting started. I wanted to, get your connections going so that way you can build your channel, because you were like, I don't know if I should do this. And I'm like, no, man, go with it. And look at you now, man. You're a big star. We're not worthy. Well,
I told you, I didn't get recognized. I never got recognized there. It was Gimpy's gal that got recognized.
Well,
they'd see her, hey, and they'd look next to her and like, okay, ugly guy with a cane. It's got to be her.
Who's the Gimpy dude? Oh, I get it now.
Oh, that's the twist.
A few times we've been out and someone's like, oh, are you Gimpy's gal? And I'm like, it's my channel.
But I got to say, when it comes to Dawn of the Zeds, you were saying about how like it got so big with the third edition. The reason I'm saying episode is episode or edition 2, the second edition. That was more episodic. It felt like an episode or like a TV movie type thing. Whereas the third edition felt like a mini series. It was epic. The second one was epic, and it made you stressed and stuff like that, but it felt very tight and very condensed. And then when you get into the third edition, especially if you start playing everything, it's like, you're like, holy crap, the whole world's ripping apart at the seams, and it's epic. And that's the beauty of that system.
Thank you. It was just meant to be a fun zombie romp. I mean, you're not supposed to win that game. And
no.
People all the time, I've lost every game. Yes, you're supposed to lose every game. It's zombie apocalypse. Come on, you're not supposed to win.
Well, it's like Dead Reckoning. I played that. That's another one of your games. I played that, and I was just like, immediately as I was playing, I was like, oh, I got some ideas here to make it even more, demanding. And it was kind of like that. Like you had this, simple, straightforward game, real easy, real fun to play. And I'm starting to think about, this is how you make it the second or third edition. You kind of escalate it up to where it's like, no, you have no choice. You're going to die. That would be kind of cool. But it was just things that were coming to me when I was playing. I was having a lot of fun.
Did you get the naming theme for Dead Reckoning?
Oh, the whole Abbott and Costello stuff?
Of all the buildings and all the forests and everything?
Who's in first and all, the whole Abbott and Costello stuff, yeah.
Abbott and Costello references, yes.
Yep.
Who's in first forest?
Which one is Dead Reckoning? I'm not sure about that one. Is it another zombie one?
Yeah,
it's
Tiny Battle.
Game by Tiny Battle.
Oh, okay. I'll have to take a look into that.
Actually, the first game, if you played Escape from Hades, it's the first game that we use the combat cards. There's no dice rolling. So you bid for initiative, and then the combat's resolved by you flipping these cards and matching them up.
I thought Escape from Hades had dice.
What's that?
Oh wait, it is cards, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've read the rules. I had it set up.
He worked on it.
I did. Trust me, I read the rules and I had Escape from Hades ready, and something came up and I had to put it to the side, and then waiting for the table space to open up so I can get it back down to the table. There was one thing that was throwing me off a little bit. It's the changing directions or changing the inside to the outside of the ship.
Right. It's a cylinder, and you can go inside the ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to remember, Marines only know left, right, straight.
With Mark Walker is that he lets you experiment with stuff. So, I mean, Invaders from Dimension X was a total experiment. Dead Reckoning was an experiment. Even The Devil's to Pay was kind of an experiment. That was a new version of the blind sword system.
Really?
Wait, wasn't 50-foot something yours too?
50-foot Colossi?
Yeah. Back of the 50-foot Colossi, yeah.
That's another solitaire one, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's part of that series. It's Space Marine from Beyond, Invaders from Dimension X, and Attack of the 50-Foot Colossi.
50s schlock movies.
The next one's supposed to be
Planet of the Moss
Men, but I don't know when I'm going to do that. It's supposed to be Planet of the Moss Men. is the next
Oh,
one.
nice.
It's kind of a Day of the Triffids meets what is that movie with pod people?
Which one?
The sci-fi where the people come out of the pods.
That was Day of the Triffids.
No, Day of the Triffids was the.
Oh no, that's right. Day of the Triffids, and they made two of those. Donald Sullivan was in the second one. I can't think of it right now.
I can't remember the name of that movie now.
Okay, audience, help out. Which one is it? The pod
For you
people.
younger guys in the crowd, I'm right with you. I got no clue what they're talking about. Right? Before my time, right there with you.
Well, it'll come there. Someone will throw it out in the audience, but so that's the next one, huh?
Yeah, if I ever get to it. We've been working on this. Some of these projects just take forever, like Beware the Shades, the GMT game. I've been working on that for 2 years or something like that. And it's just endless. I mean, designing an asymmetrical multiplayer game is really tough.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
There you go. Thank you.
Now, I am curious, and I don't want to ask this in a bad way. So, is there a company that is easier to design for, like with the design process?
Yeah. Well, yeah. To a certain. Well, I don't think it's a big secret. The hardest one is GMT because you do have to jump through a lot of hoops. I mean, they've had to wear the shades for a few months now, and it's still not technically on the P500 because it goes through more. It goes through more of a vetting process now. And they've got ton. I mean, they probably have 100 games in the pipeline. I'm sure. Revolution is longer because Roger does a lot of development work. He does it all himself. He played Stonewall Sword. When I first submitted Stonewall Sword to him, he played Stonewall Sword more than I played it. He kept playing. That's how I met Claude and Steve. Claude Whalen and Steve Pointing are the best development team ever. They develop all my blind sword stuff, and they play the living daylights out of these games. And that's why they're so well balanced and relatively errata free. And they're working. They're working really hard on. So finally, we're doing the big bet, the Battle of Gettysburg, all 3 days for Flying Pig. It's going to Kickstarter later this year. So it's called A Most Fearful Sacrifice. And that has 12 scenarios in it. And it's the same scale as The Devil's to Pay, but because it's so big, I actually developed a card activation system rather than chits, because you can imagine if you're doing all 3 days, you're going to end up with 100 chits in the box. Yeah. So I changed the activation system a little bit, so that wouldn't be a problem. But that thing has been playing so well, and Steve and Claude and our new guy Zeke Conover, they're all playing the living daylights out of this game. But without those guys, these games wouldn't. I fully admit it. They wouldn't be as good as they are. You need that team in there to just pummel the game, to find every little nuance that you may have missed or that you need to add or change. Those guys are priceless.
That's something I've noticed about Academy games, is they tend to play the living shit out of something before they publish it, because they don't want to have any errata or errors. And I'm sure they do have the occasional one that does slip through, but they do their damnedest to just weed all of that out. They develop the hell out of it. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, when you do bring a design to these people, and this is just me being curious, is it like you can bring them the idea and just spitball it out to them and they say, yeah, run with it? Or do you actually bring them like the prototype of the game and sit down and go over it with them?
I usually if you're talking about 5 years ago, I would have to do all that. I would have to bring it to a convention and demo it. Now, Mark told me last convention, Mark Walker told me that if I designed a game on toilet bowls, he would publish it. So you get to a point where you can just say, hey, look, I have this idea for a game. Here's the approach, and they go, yeah, go ahead and do it.
Well, I got an idea right now. How about you do a State of Siege game on the toilet paper crisis for this whole crap that we're going through right now? I mean, that would definitely be fitting.
Can Karens be a special card play or some type of
that,
enemy
and then you'd have the Uber drivers that would be coming around with Uber food deliveries, and could have some stupid stuff going on there.
Yeah,
be fun though.
But David Thompson's in the same position too. I mean, he can call up anybody and get his game published. I'm sure he just has to say, "This is what the idea I have." And I mean, it's a nice position to be in. But I mean, I am careful about. I don't want to do a Battle of the Bulge game. I don't want to do a strategic World War II game. There's certain subject matters that I find interesting, and then that's one of my rules to every new game designer is that do what you know and do what you love. Don't do something because you think that's what the company wants you to do. Don't do a Bulge game because you think they need a Bulge game.
Nobody needs a Bulge game.
We don't need any more Bulge games.
They're just like Eastern Front.
Really different.
I like Eastern Front.
I use Bulge as an example because I generally find the Battle of the Bulge boring. So it's kind of like what we were talking about before about strategic World War II.
Just got that one in from MMP, another East Front game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some that are just done to death. That's why I like David Thompson. He's hitting all these elusive, outrageous subjects that nobody covers.
Exactly.
Well, that's why when I had an idea a few weeks ago, that was the first.
You finally had one?
Yeah, I did. Believe it or not, I wrote it down too because I was like, "Holy shit! I can't believe I did this."
Toilet paper idea. So
I broke out my crayons and I wrote it in my little coloring book. No, but I had an idea for a game, and I said there are two people I went to, and I asked them about it because number one was I had asked David, but the first person I went to was Harold Buchanan. I says, "Has anybody done this? Has anybody thought about this?" And I said, because I got this idea, and I kind of threw a couple things out to him. He's like, "I don't know, no one's done it." He's like, "Run with it," So I was like, "Okay, yeah, maybe I will." So I started writing down ideas in a book. It'll probably be years before it ever, if it ever happens. But I have different ways of approaching it. So I don't know if I've got an idea for a solo game, and I've got an idea for opposed, but the opposed would be hidden movement. So not sure how all that would work yet. And then I was thinking just maybe cooperative. So who knows?
Yeah, are you talking about 3 separate games or all for the same game?
One subject. How I would go about it, I don't know. That was the thing. I was like, okay, do I make it a direct solitaire game? Do I make it cooperative? Do I make it opposed with hidden movement? Or merge the two together to have like a solitaire game with hidden movement dictated by cards or something like that. So depends.
I mean, you allowed to say what the subject is, or is this still a big secret?
No, it's not a big secret. It's the culprit aspiring, because no one has, I don't think, ever done anything on Washington spies and how critical they were to the American Revolution. And I think it would be kind of neat to have you as either Talmadge running the spies, or you could be, if you're playing the British, you could be the British spy masters going against the American spy master, the Patriots. And, it's all hidden movement. You're trying to intercept them. We think they're over there, and you're trying to evade. So you're getting over here. That would be kind of neat. But right now it's just ideas. It's nothing but just a bunch of notes. So who knows? Maybe someday we'll talk about it.
David, because he just did Sniper Elite, and that has a hidden movement mechanic in it, right?
Yeah, I did mention to him. He's like, that's pretty cool idea. No one's done that as far as I know. So who knows?
Yeah, I might have been barking up his tree over that one. Like, hey, David, keep me in mind, buddy.
Well, that was the other thing too. Is I was like, if anybody's going to do something that's off the beaten path, it's him. So he's like, no, I never thought about doing that one.
So but now he has.
Yeah. So now if he's got it, hey, you stole my idea. No, he'd be able to design it about 15 years faster than I would.
Yeah, doing games that are on different topics is definitely a huge plus if you can find them.
Well, what's your favorite topic then, Herman?
I actually like early World War I and late 19th century European wars. So I get interested in Franco-Prussian, Austro-Prussian, that whole era into early World War I, that whole transition from the Napoleonic style of warfare to modern warfare. Always intrigued me. I think when I saw that, I know this is a very, very superficial reason, but when I saw some paintings of the of Franco-Prussian battles and stuff, I was just like, wow, that's gorgeous. Look at that's beautiful. And I said, oh my God, look at that. They're running into machine guns, the Mitrailleuse and all that. That's amazing. So then I just started reading because I was really into Napoleonics. So this modernization to a certain extent of that was very intriguing to me. And early World War I has a lot of the same type of stuff. I mean, the 1914 campaign is really interesting. And I think could have gone a lot of different ways. That was an interesting period. And on the Eastern Front as well.
So I just can't imagine wearing a big sparkly uniform with a poofy hat and running at the machine guns. I'll stick with my camouflage any day.
Well, exactly, and that's why the Germans had the Feldgrau, right, the field gray uniforms, because they were already aware of that.
Well, weren't the British uniforms brown?
The British were khaki at the time. They had the soft caps, if you remember.
Yeah.
Well, they had a lot of experience in the Boer War and all that too, so they learned a lot. That's why they were so sharp.
Yeah.
So probably that. I mean, I was really into the 7 Years' War. Frederick the Great was always I always found it entertaining to read about him. Quite a figure in history. What else? Obviously, the Civil War. I had a huge Civil War miniatures collection that was based on the Battle of Antietam. Which was like for me, it was the all-star game of the Civil War.
That one I tried, but I could never get into the Civil War. Just wasn't a topic that ever really interested me.
Okay.
I tried.
I like some what if modern stuff too, but again, like Mo and I were talking before about Pacific warfare. Most Pacific warfare games are either way too simplified so that they don't feel like the Pacific War. They're way too complex. It's one extreme or the other. I don't find too many that are actually playable and feel like the Pacific War. And the same is for modern warfare. So one of my favorite game systems, that is World at War by Mark. That's how I met Mark Walker, because I was a huge fan of World at War. Because to me, that was it felt like modern warfare, and it wasn't that obnoxious set of rules where you're measuring missiles as they cross the field, kind of crap. It was an exciting, easy to play, fun game, but it felt right, and I always appreciated that about World at War.
And see, that's my favorite theater, is the Pacific.
Okay,
but you're right. It's really hard to find a sweet spot because it's either really abstracted, the dimensions are really off. How do you account for supply, island hopping, the dimensions of the sea that they were having to travel? There's a lot of variables involved with trying to do a game justice in that theater.
Right, and each one is so interesting. The whole concept of island hopping and then grabbing airfields so they don't have air power over a certain area, and then the aircraft carrier influence and the submarines and all of that is very interesting. But how you make that into a playable game is the problem, right? And you're right; it's about scale too, because the islands are so tiny. So how do you simulate that without having a gigantic map or
There's really only two ways: Empire of the Sun, or drill down into tactical, because tactical is where you're going to get the most out of it, because that's what those battles were. They were just brawls, is what they were, in a condensed, really tight environment in heavy jungle, mountains, things like that, and they were really brutal, fights. You're not going to get that when you're abstracted out that high, but you're going to get the grand strategic maneuver and all the movement, the importance of the island hopping to get to the mainland of Japan.
Right.
I'll tell you, it was actually the I don't know if you guys ever saw it. I'm sure you probably did. The documentary that History Channel did about the Enterprise during World War II. There's like 10 part in the series. Battlefield 360, right? Did you guys ever see that?
No, not seen that one.
I don't think so.
Or Battle 360, I think it was called Battle 360, and it was the premise of the show was talking about it from the air, the sea, underneath the ocean, what was going on. Right. And it was a 10-part series about the Enterprise, the aircraft carrier, the Enterprise during World War II, and everything that happened to it. And there's a part in the documentary where our other aircraft carriers had been either destroyed, sunk, or severely damaged. And at one point, the only aircraft carrier we had against the Empire of Japan was the Enterprise.
Right.
And all the sailors and Marines are like, Enterprise versus Japan, and they still stuck in there and held them off until America's industrial might could gear up and get the war going. And that just, I don't know, it stuck with me when I was younger, that was such an awesome thing, that a handful of men were able to stop the onslaught long enough for us to get our feet underneath ourselves so we could get the fight going. That's why the Pacific has always just been the most interesting to me. Plus that, and it's Marines. Gotta support my boys.
So John said that, so Gimpy, you can ignore the war, but you wear the beard. You got the Civil War look going.
It's more about publishers.
Yes, that's what I was going to go back to here. It was about which publisher gives you the biggest piece of the pie, if you can discuss that.
I can't discuss it, but I'll tell you why I can't discuss it, because I don't know. And I know that sounds rather flippant, but when I work with a publisher, I don't even ask them about. I mean, I'll ask them maybe superficially about it, but it doesn't really matter to me. If I want to design a game and they do a good job, I don't do this for the money. And I know that sounds, altruistic and everything, but it's the case. I don't worry about the money. For me, it's when I get the check or when I get, the deposit in PayPal, it's dinner money. It's certainly nothing you can make, you can live off of or depend on, anything like that. It's extra money that comes in and rolls in on a surprise. And, if I for example, with Grant Wiley over at Worthington, I agreed to everything that, because I knew he was going to do a good job. I know they do great production. He was easy to communicate with. So I still, to this day, have not asked him what the commissions are for Invictus and stuff. I have no idea.
Wow.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I've done some commission type work for different war game companies, and I've noticed in this industry, most of it appears to be more of handshake type deals, right? Everybody's just kind of, hey, this is what I want. Can you do this? Can I do this? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This will work for us. Everybody's not kind of, I don't want to say sticklers for the rules. I mean, no one's actively looking to screw each other over. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Nobody's really, it's not really a dog eat dog situation, right? Everybody's kind of getting along and we're all doing the right thing. I'm not worried about somebody stealing my stuff or screwing me over or anything else like that. And I actually do. I remember when I started this thing, I said I remember telling my girlfriend Nancy, I said, I'm going to try to get one game published by every single game publisher out there, just as a matter of principle. But they've all been great to work with. They all have a slightly different style and everything, but so far it's been fantastic. And I don't care about how much they pay in commission. If they do my game right, I can be proud of it, and talk about it and be proud of what comes out of it. That's all I really need.
Well, I mean, if you are looking to get, if you're looking to get a game published with Lock and Load, I know a guy. I definitely can get you there.
Mo, all the publishers that are watching or see this later, they're going to be like, okay, we're going to jot down Herman. 0.5%. All
Speaking
right.
of Lock and Load, there's Lock and Load right now. Hey, guys. I just say the name and appears. Apparently he's having a good day. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Let me text him and ask
Are
him.
we sure that's David? It might be his son or one of his family members.
Text him and say, is that you? Or is somebody using your account?
I'm not going to say this, but I actually have access to a couple of other things. I've gone to post before on Facebook, and it was showing that I was posting as Lock and Load. I'm like, okay, can't do that. Let me back out. I don't want to blast someone online. Lock and Load's going to say something that they're not anticipating. Can't wait for Mercury.
Okay, so he did.
Hey, David.
David, we were just talking about you.
Stop talking about him. Move on. Now he's going to be paranoid. What the hell are you just saying about me?
Mercury and Red Devils. Which one is that?
Red Devils at Arnhem is one that's been kind of held up a little bit because it went back to the designer. And Mercury, I'm not sure exactly which one he's talking about with Mercury. I'm not involved in that one.
Somebody suggested to me once to do, not too long ago, to do the Red Devils at Arnhem as a Magnificent Style type of game. I don't know. I don't know a lot about that particular the details of that battle. Find out if that was or not.
Well, I still have to play Crowbar. That's the one I want to try because I saw that at WBC. I guess it was 2018, and that was when it was just the prototype was on the table at that point. I think it was off to the printer, and it looked beautiful. It was this big, huge thing, and I was just like, "Wow, this is really cool."
And that's the one from Flying Pig, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Did I see you there?
I don't think so.
Huh.
Were you there in 2018?
Yeah.
Then we didn't run into each other because that was 2 years ago. Yeah, because I didn't get to go last year, didn't get to go this year. Obviously, no one did. But 2021, hopefully, we'll all be able to go there to all of our.
I look forward to it. This is a lot of fun. By the way, you should try to go. You Nate to PresCon in Charlottesville.
Where's it at?
It's in Charlottesville, Virginia.
When's it held?
It's PresCon. It's end of February, President's Day holiday.
I have a couple of things that kind of make me limited. One, I'm epileptic, so I can't drive. The whole seizure thing. So the good thing is the wife enjoys the hobby, enjoys everything, so she doesn't mind going to these things. But at the end of February, she's going to be 8 months pregnant.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Knock that off.
Number 4 is on the way. Look, knocking things is what got me into this position. Okay? I've done enough of that. But yes, the baby's due at the beginning of March. So unfortunately, what's that?
More gaming time down the drain.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, we have a fairly decent sized house. We have a 5-bedroom house, and I've taken over 2 rooms for wargaming at the moment, and I'm gonna have to give up one of them. So the one that I've got the extra filming for Absolute Victory set up in right now is going to be a nursery later on.
Nice. Well, so we got you hooked up because Dave says that would be cool. So
is that the Arnhem idea?
I guess Arnhem or any game, that you have. So being that you want to get a game published with every game publisher, I said we'd make it happen, and here you go. This is what we do on this show.
This is how that whole thing started.
Exactly.
Now is the time you need to discuss percentages with him because he's doped up on a bunch of cough medicine and stuff from being sick. He'll probably agree to anything. Tell him you want 101% royalties.
There you go. And I want a finder's fee on that one.
Stock options.
Yeah, stock options.
Rob Moffat's in chat, huh? Hey, Rob.
Yeah. He's saying that Crowbar is awesome.
Thank you, Robert.
And he's right. It was the Crete one. That's right. It was. I was thinking the other Operation Mercury. That's the Grand Tactical. I forgot the Lock and Load Mercury Crete game. That's what threw me off. So
is that the one where it was the German paratroopers?
110%. Yeah.
Was that German Fallschirmjäger?
Fallschirmjäger.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So 110%. It's here. It's on Whiskey Charlie. It is live. It is going to be in forever. So you are set, Herman. We got you hooked up.
I have to question David's business practices now.
Like Gibby said, he's all hopped up on whatever pain meds and everything else because he's not been feeling good. So he's a little loopy right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right now, probably best time to discuss anything with him. It'll all be a good idea.
On that note, you were talking about having ideas. You want to get games printed with every publisher. How many games do you have swirling around in your head right now?
I have actually. I think I wrote them down because I knew you were going to ask me that. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 10 right now that are in some form of note taking or on their way to being done or scheduled to be done, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Put it all together, one big monster game.
History of the World, Part 1. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a solitaire, asymmetrical, cooperative trader mechanic game with hidden movement.
It could be like a civilization, right? Starts way back in antiquity and runs all the way through all the different periods.
It's a program your own game. Here's all the parts. Do whatever you want with it.
So if you're one to hit everyone, which are the ones that you haven't hit yet?
I don't have one with Lock and Load. I don't have one with MMP. But MMP and I, from what it's just not my style of game. The super. I'm past the 2000 counter format thing.
Well,
you're
they've
never
got
too
some.
old for it.
What about the SCS? That type of game. The SCS, the Standard Combat Series. You know how they've got that base series.
I didn't like that system, to be honest.
Oh, really?
With you. SCS, I didn't like.
Okay.
Who else is there? How many other publishers we got? Well, technically, Bill did Escape from Hades, but I did promise Tom Russell one game a while ago, and I have to do it. It was actually called like Hailstones Upon Rooftops. It's Culp's Hill, doing in magnificent style for Culp's Hill.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because nobody's, as far as I know, I think actually there is somebody working on one now, but nobody's ever done a game on Culp's Hill, as far as I know. Culp's Hill is a fascinating battle.
Well, I mean,
to Gettysburg.
I was going to say you can do it even if there was games, because look at Gettysburg, Bulge, everything else. Those have been done to death, and they still got new ones coming out.
Hollenspiel. I don't know, who else is there?
Academy.
So many. Academy. All right, so Academy. I actually had something working for Academy. They wanted us to do. Oh my God, the Russo-Polish war game. The Fog of War series they have. What is the name of that game?
No, Strike of the Eagle. Strike of the Eagle.
Yeah, Strike of the Eagle. So I had proposed to Uwe a while ago that system would be perfect for the Franco-Prussian War because of the way it moves, right?
Yeah.
And it would make it an interesting. The problem with the Franco-Prussian War is a lot of people think it's not that interesting. It's too one-sided. But if you use that system, it actually would be very interesting to do. So he said to me, "Yeah, that's a great idea, but I'd rather have you do the Civil War version first." So I said, I'm kind of done with Civil War games. I mean, like,
kind of tired of them.
So actually, Harvey, my buddy Harvey Mossman and I started working on that because he really knew the system well. Harvey's one of those guys who he absorbs war game rules and gets every nuance of the war game rules in the first read through and knows them like the back of his hand. It's fantastic. So
God, I wish I were like that.
Yeah, he really knew that system well, and man, we could just not get it to work for Civil War. The scaling issue, like you say, it just didn't translate. We were trying to do the Peninsula campaign, and it just wasn't scaling out right and working. And the other problem with Academy is, I love Uwe. He's a great guy, but to get something published with it, that's worse than GMT. That's years down the road.
2028.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I was saying earlier. They play test the shit out of it. They tweak it. They do everything to it. Yeah. Like the things that I noticed, like when I've reviewed some of their stuff before, I very rarely ding them on components or errata or barely anything. The one thing that I did ding them on, I actually turned out to be wrong on, because I had understood the product wrong, and Uwe corrected me, and I was like, damn, okay, perfect. Although it was the Conflict of Heroes series, which I think is just perfect. So
Legion is another one. I was just looking over at my
shelf. Legion War Games.
Yeah,
Legion have something in the hopper for them called it's Miracle at Dunkirk.
That's right. Yep, that's right. I have that one.
Get their P500 number, but things went off the rails at Legion for a while where they weren't, producing anything. Randy had some personal issues and stuff, and it's finally cranking up now again. So I have to get back on that one. That's based on a Spoiled Victory, which I did for White Dog Games back in the old days, and it's an updated version of it that includes naval and air components. So now you actually have to take the ships, get them to Dunkirk on the beaches, get the guys off, and actually sail them back to Dover.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I've been fiddling with adjusting some stuff on that one, but yes, Legion Games, that's going to be one there too. And I have a couple of friends of mine. Brian Armour's doing All Our Brothers, which is about the Battle of Solferino in 1859, using At Any Cost as his model. So yes, Legion is one that I'm with too.
And just so you know, Robert, that 2028, that was a joke. I was not being serious at saying that they wouldn't get printed until 2028, although it probably would be that way.
I don't think it's far off at all.
Do you mind if I ask you something that popped up in my head real quick? Are you able to design any now digitally, kind of like using Vassal or something like that, so you can make quick adjustments on the fly?
This just came up today. I got a text message from Luke Billingsley, Gene's son, because he's got Beware the Shades, and he's testing it, right? So he said to me, you know, with a game, especially with a multiplayer asymmetrical game, getting it play tested, like here, I don't know that many. I just moved here to Knoxville back in October, so I don't really know that many people yet where I have a group that I can go, oh, hi, I'm new here. Here, play test my game. You know, what else you guys got to do? So, you know, it was an issue getting that really tested with multiple groups of people. And he asked me today on the text message, he goes, can you, do you know anybody who can do a tabletop simulator of this thing? And I said, wow. I'm just learning how to use tabletop simulator. Never been making a mod for the thing. My buddy Harvey's fiddling around with doing, but you know, it's a lot of scanning of cards, pieces, and all that. That's still too new to me. You know, like I said, I was telling Mo before, my thing back here is, you know, the West Point map and cut out cardboard pieces, and I use my cards. I print it out on paper and I stick them in a card sleeve.
Yep.
That's cards.
Yeah. I use I have old. I forget which game it's from, but I have old cards stuck in card sleeves, and then I just cut them up on paper, slide them in there, so they actually feel like a deck of cards rather than just a bunch of pieces of paper, and they get crumpled and everything.
On the card sleeve, Nancy makes fun of me because all I do is get Amazon shipments of card sleeves. Like all my games, like I got Shadowrun Crossfire. I don't know if you ever played this deck builder.
Oh, you suck.
But
it's been one on my list for a while.
Oh, has it? Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. I haven't even had a chance to play it yet, but I've already sleeved all the cards because it's like therapy. I just get the game and I'm like, I haven't even played it yet. I'm just sleeving and organizing. I don't know if it's some kind of OCD thing or something. I don't know, or German thing.
It's the zen of wargaming. You get a new game.
It's like clipping counters.
You clip the counters, and then you can get even really more stupid like I do, and you get these you make little tray dividers so you can put, this unit goes here, this unit goes here, this unit goes here, and then you take, instead of what would have been 2 trays, you make it down to 1 tray. Right. Or like I did with Fields of Fire, that was originally broken down into 5 trays, and I got that down to 3, and I'm going to try to condense it even further if possible, but I don't think it's going to go below 3 trays.
Yeah,
so many counters.
Organizing these games, it really is.
Yeah.
I've had this fascination for card games lately, like Arkham Horror LCG and Marvel Legendary. I'm obsessed with card games for some reason. I don't know why. It's just, I guess because of the art maybe, or because they're usually pretty easy to play. They're pretty compact, and I don't know. There's something weird about it. But I've been ordering sleeves like crazy. Jeff Bezos must have made $1 million. Card sleeves,
Sentinels of the Multiverse. Have you tried that one?
That one yet? I wrote various reviews of it. People said, "Oh, it gets real fiddly, real fast," But I'm not a big superhero guy. But Marvel Legendary, man, I just love that system. It's just so much fun.
It just depends. If you're into the superhero thing, then Sentinels is good, but it can get very expansive and large because there are just a buttload of expansions for it.
Right.
So unless you want to sleeve 1,000 cards, avoid it.
Yeah.
And by the way, the other thing I found out too, and I was telling David Thompson this because I was doing it for his remains of for what remains.
For what remains.
Today, for what remains, I use clear coin holders. The discs for his chits.
Yeah.
His chits that you put in the bag to So if you put them in a clear coin holder, they don't wear out, and it's also tactile-wise, it's great just to rummage around with plastic, discs.
Yeah, I actually had to switch out. I was playing that in a set of videos recently, and that little bag, my hand couldn't fit in it.
I have one of the big ass one over here that I use. I stuck it in. Yeah.
Well, I've got a 3D printer, so I'm constantly printing things on that. And I printed out this big mini nuke from Fallout, and you can screw the top off of it. So I took the top off and threw all the counters in that. And that's what I finished filming with.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a really unique chit pull system that David came up with. You know, I love variations of chit pulls, and that's a cool one.
Oh yeah, for the people watching, For What Remains, excellent game. He did a great job of mixing a miniature skirmish game with a war game. It's pretty much the two combined with a chip pull system. Works very well. Plays solitaire well. Plays competitively well. Just it's done very well all across the board.
And really, as we were talking about before, the brilliant thing about that game is it's so simple to play.
Yeah,
it's so easy to play.
Matt says, I always heard carpal tunnel as carpool tunnel system, like an underground express carpool lane. Well, I did see something now. We'll all kind of share thoughts on this because we've all played this game. We were talking about different games we played and the designers and stuff like that. And one of them that was brought up was Brian Train. I know that Gimpy's going through his review through of Brief Border Wars. I did my review. You've been playing it as well, Herman. So let's do a little quick chat on that one because that's a fairly recent one that everybody has played. So let's Gimpy, why don't you start us off with your initial thoughts? We'll keep it short and just kind of give almost like a little mini review.
All right. Well, in line with what Herman and I were talking about earlier in the show about the difference between complexity and being simple with a war game and the fact that you can have a deep war game that doesn't need to be complex. This one seriously fits the bill on that because, and I explained this in the first video I did on it, the rules are broken up into just a handful of player aids. So you have one player aid that has the main rules on it that apply to all 4 games in the box, but then you have a player aid that goes with each individual game. So you can sit there in under half an hour, read the main rules for the game, and then whatever specific exceptions are for the module that you're playing itself. And with just that, so what we're talking maybe 3-4 pages of rules, you have a deep game that plays well. And I have to give him total props on that. I'm in the middle of the football war now. I think it's top of turn 4, top of turn 5, where I'm at. And I've got both sides fighting over a single control point, and really at this point they're fighting over whether or not the game's going to be a draw or whether El Salvador is going to win. But the thing is, like when you first look at it, you're not seeing that deep of a game. But when you actually get into it, especially with the special action cards, and the fact that you start with so many and you have to decide how you're going to use them. Are you going to use them to boost your Air Force or bring in extra defenses or to conduct raids? Those special action cards give the game its variety because it'll do X, Y, and Z in this game, but in the other game they include the other 3 games, it does other stuff. So I think it's a great idea to have a handful of components that represent multiple different things, the main rules for all the games, and then the exceptions. I really was impressed with how well that game pulled off 4 games in a single box. Just outstanding across the board.
Herman, your thoughts?
Everything you said there. It's a perfect example of an obscure topics, right? Playable system, unique system. There's no other system like it around there. Quad. I love quad. I love the old quads. And as soon as I saw that it was a quad, I was like, oh, I'm on board with this. And Brian's games. Not all of Brian's games have really hit it. I mean, some of them are a little bit too odd, but this one really nailed it. I've only played Operation Attila so far with a friend of mine here. I didn't meet one other board gamer, and we played it. And I had the Turks. I remember it was almost like this big fight in the middle of the island for the one big town, right?
Yeah.
And we realized the VPs were going to matter, so we started running. Like he'd take one VP, then I'd grab the other one, and then he'd try to get that one. We were doing this hopscotchy thing, and it was really fun. But that game is definitely a winner for me too.
Well, one of the things with Brian is he, like you were saying, he does some that are games that are kind of a little strange. It's because he abstracts a lot of the stuff with when it comes to counterinsurgency, and this is a more kinetic game, something a little different for him because his games are not generally very kinetic. This one definitely is, and I think he did a really great job of capturing the essence of fighting low intensity conflicts really well because they're not super strong. They're low rent troops is what they are, and they don't get destroyed. I like how they get damaged. They go off the track. The way I look at it is it's too much pressure. These guys are literally farmers and guys off the street that are running up, getting behind a wall and sticking the AK out and spraying and praying. They're not picking their shots. So when they feel too much pressure, they break and run. They go have a little siesta, and then their officer or whoever's in charge goes and rounds them back up, and then they're on the damage track, and then they're back in the rear area, and then they can be redeployed. So there's no like big, huge, crushing victories for either team, or either gamer. There's a lot of little nuance in it that is really fun. And like Gimpy was saying about the cards, they're really important because not only when you play them, but when you can force your opponent to play them. So you can burn through, if you can make them burn through those cards faster, well, then they can't do things later in the game. And I think that's really good.
It also has that chaos factor that I like with, the way the card draws come out.
Yeah.
Kind of like a commander type of thing where, a lot of people complain about that, but to me, it's if you get that bad string, you have to mitigate that and then be ready. You're going to get a good string at some point, so you have to be prepared to take advantage of that. Then, right? So there is still strategy, even if you get dealt a crappy hand. Plus there's those special cards that you can kind of get around that temporarily anyway.
Yeah, for the aggressor in the
coin system.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gimpy.
You're right about the cards. I've had it in the game that I've got going on now that the left side, the El Salvadorians, have got the majority of the cards the whole game. They've either had more or equal to the right side, the Hondurans, not the bad guys. But that has given them kind of an advantage, and I'm waiting to see if it flips later on, but there's no guarantee because there's more cards than there are turns, I believe. So there's a good chance that Gray's going to have more cards coming to him later on, but you're not guaranteed to have more cards coming. So you have to use those special action cards sparingly to kind of mitigate the draw. The draw is kind of the dice roll on what type of odds that you're getting. Yeah, the odds might be in your favor, but if it's still turning against you, use that special action to help you bolster your defenses and bring in some aircraft to hold them off until you get it,
Well, it acts like the chip pull and also the initiative determination, and at the same time gives you your ability to what you can and cannot do in that turn. And when you're the aggressor in the scenario, you better be aggressive, because if you're not, you're going to be sucking wind by turn 3, 4, 5, because things happen really fast and you may lose a turn, especially when you get events like I did, where I had one game I had, it was the third Indochina War, and I was, I think it was the Chinese player, drew 2 cards. One of them was the event card. Roll the event.
You wrote about it.
Yeah, both teams lose a card. I was like, wow, that sucks for China. They get no cards at all this turn. And then they started doing good again. They started recouping it, and peace talks. You got to go down to 6 turns. I was like, damn it, I needed that extra turn.
Yep.
But that's the beauty of it.
System. I think he's playing some more games.
Yeah, he is, and I'm really looking forward to him because I think he really nailed it with this one. I hope he continues on in that same fashion because it's a really, really good box of games. There's 4 games in there, and a lot of fun for everyone in that one.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. So of a game that you can get to the table a lot. Like you can play one of those twice in an evening without sweating, right? And it's a unique experience each time. It's very well done.
True.
I wouldn't have got it if it wasn't for Mo suggesting it, because I'm not as much into the area control type games as I am the traditional hex and counter types. But I have to say, I need to give more of these area control games more of a chance, because this one's really grown on me. I did not expect to like it as much as I do, but it has a deep strategy to it, and I really find myself poring over it, like, what decision is the best? Is it best to especially when it comes to doing the damage for both sides, because you have the choice on where you apply those hits. Do you focus it down to damage a unit, or do you spread it out to force a bunch to retreat? Is it better to give yourself that small break or a larger break?
And Robert was asking, he's got Fields of Fire 2. Should he get Fields of Fire 1 before it goes out of print? I will say, you got Fields of Fire 2, you got the Marines, that's all you need, number one. Number two, how many times have you played it? Because that's a big key. Fields of Fire is a beast, and if you've learned it and you really enjoy it, then you can backtrack to Fields of Fire 1, then, get a copy of it. But it's going to come back in print. It'll probably be just a few years. So I would grab it now if you're not sure, because if you're if you decide that you don't want it, you can definitely offload it and not lose any money.
But let's be fair with it. Fields of Fire 2 is Fields of Fire 1 with more stuff.
Yeah.
So it's basically Fields of Fire 1 with expansions built in.
Yeah.
Now it's different areas, different cards, different stuff. I mean, obviously, but there's not going to be anything new in Fields of Fire 1. Right, so you're really not going to experience anything that you haven't experienced already in that one box. And I don't want to tell someone no, because it's not like Fields of Fire 1 isn't a good game, because it is a good game. But you're not giving yourself anything new. By getting that game.
So he's still.
I kind of got to be honest about it.
He's struggling with the rules still. So I would say it's not going to hurt to get it, because you can always, like I said, sell it or trade it later on if you decide that it's not for you, or you don't really care to have a second one. You've got one, you're fine, or you can whichever one you like better. The subject matter is what you can get. You can go with. I would say
and don't feel bad. Everyone struggles with the rules to that game.
Yes. So I have another question for you. A couple more, and then we'll wind down here. Number one was, do you have any current games or designers that have really caught you by surprise and blown you away? Like whether it's old gamers, old games that you've played in the past that just stuck with you as, wow, this is really mind-blowing, or anybody new and upcoming that has just caught you by surprise.
David Thompson.
David is the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't get to play that many games anymore. I really don't. I squeeze them in, and if you're talking about old games, games that stuck with me. Well, I'll tell you about one new game. You're talking about games that are accessible and clever and playable. I was going to mention Quartermaster General 1914. That game is a brilliant design, and
really,
if you have 5 people that you want to get a game done with, that game is perfect.
Wow.
It's easy to play, but it's got these really couple of clever mechanics that make it feel like World War I, but are really simple and really strategic. And it is an agonizingly brain-burning game. I swear to God, you should try
really.
It. Yes, I know you wouldn't think of it as Quartermaster General, right? But
no, yeah.
World War I version is superior to all the others. Games in the past that have really. Frederick the Great, I remember, was one of the games that I thought was the perfect design for effect game.
Mm-hmm.
It simulated the 7 Years' War, what Frederick the Great had to do almost perfectly. I don't know if you remember that one. And to a certain extent, Revolt in the East was the same way. I don't know if you ever played that game.
I've not.
Revolt in the East was an old folio game by SPI where the entire Warsaw Pact revolts, and you have to run around as the Soviets and put down all the revolts in the Eastern Bloc. It is so great. It's fun. I don't know why. I like games where you're putting out bonfire. I guess high anxiety games is what I like. You're running around, either trying to stop zombies from coming in, or you're putting down revolts. I mean, I don't know. It's just the same kind of theme.
Nice.
Napoleon at Leipzig I used to play all the time. And Napoleon's Last Battle, those two. That basically Napoleonic system. But I liked it because Napoleon at Leipzig was one of those few war games you could play with a lot of people. And I used that and Napoleon's Last Battles to teach people at college how to play war games. Back in the 70s, that was cool, by the way, to go to play war games. You were one of the cool kids then.
Yeah. Nate, you got one?
I was just going to actually suggest to Herman, if he hasn't played it, if you like East Front at all, I would suggest Thunder in the East. That one has just stuck with me. Frank Chadwick and Alan Emmerich worked on that
I
one.
remember that being when it was first came out. God, they were play testing at a Console World Expo like 5 years ago or something like that. That went through a lot of iterations as well.
It is the most streamlined monster game. It's not quite a monster, but it's big enough to call it a monster game that I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's smooth enough that, especially if you're playing at 2 players, you can really cook through some turns instead of feeling like you're bogged down. I really thought they did an excellent job of that one.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Very good.
And then, we got one here from John saying he's got a Marine question. Where and what are the halls of Montezuma, and would it make a good game? Battle of Chapultepec.
Yeah. That was in Libya, right?
It's Tripoli.
Yeah, Tripoli.
That's Tripoli. Shores of Tripoli. Halls of Montezuma is Mexico.
Yeah, that's right.
Chapultepec.
Yep.
Mexico
My bad.
City. But so that was that game, and there's actually a game I believe being worked on by Fort Circle for the Halls of Montezuma, if I remember correctly.
They just did the Tripoli game, right?
Yeah, they did the Shores of Tripoli, and he wants to do Halls of Montezuma.
Yeah, I got that coming.
And outside of gaming, what other hobbies do you have aside from gaming? You must have other outside hobbies and things that you like.
I love baseball. Unfortunately, not this year. I haven't watched one baseball game this year. To me, it looks like exhibition baseball. I can't get into it. I'm sorry. I'm a big Met fan, or I was. Now that I'm here, I think I have to be an Atlanta Braves fan or something. I'm very much into music. My nickname at college was Hard Rock Herman. So.
So, do you mean like Metallica type music?
Yeah.
So, like good stuff? Okay.
Rammstein.
Metallica, AC/DC. Okay, yeah. All right.
Rammstein has been. I actually spent a lot of time watching people. They have these. Did we talk about this? Somebody was mentioning the reaction videos now on YouTube are like a new thing.
Oh yeah, they're a big thing. Yeah.
I didn't know they was. I keep saying to Nancy, I didn't even know this is a thing that people are actually just reacting. So I watch all these hip hop guys and gals listening to Rammstein for the first time and seeing their live show. They're going nuts.
Yeah.
I gotta go to this concert. So yeah, I'm really into music and baseball and what else? I don't know. We do a lot.
You've got the accent for baseball, especially the way you say it.
Oh, do I?
Yeah. Baseball. I can't even say it though. Bell ball.
Baseball.
Toady.
Toady.
Yeah, there's some W's in there.
I know. I got to start saying y'all and all that kind of thing. And
I can teach you to talk real Southern if you like.
I reckon I can.
John says genealogy, gardening, and bugging his wife. Those are his hobbies. David says he loves baseball. Go Mets.
Yeah, dude.
And no, Tripoli was Libya. Halls of Montezuma, that was Mexico. We already covered that. And Robert says same thing. He can't get into baseball either.
I agree with you, Robert. Man, it all looks like just exhibition nonsense.
That's not the reason I wouldn't watch it.
Well, the funniest
but
thing
I don't want to get off topic.
The funniest thing ever was for the first time in my life, my birthday is the end of July. For the first time in my life, I actually got to watch NHL hockey. Live, real NHL hockey, and I replays on my birthday. I was like, wow, this is a really screwed up year.
Hockey's actually up right now. Like a lot more people are watching hockey for some reason.
Well, I mean, hockey comes back and everyone's like, oh, how are they going to play social distance? Hockey players are like, hell no, we're dropping the gloves right off the bat. They started fighting first game. I was like, yes, hockey's back.
Hockey's that one sport that has the biggest difference between seeing it live and seeing it on television.
Yes.
Seeing it live is a totally different experience.
Yeah, you might be able to take a tooth home with you.
And if you ever get a chance to go to a game and, you sit up here or high, do yourself a favor and see if you can get down low, even if it's for just one period, because you will see how fast the game really is. Everything about it is fast. The little head fakes, the shoulder dips, the hand movements, everything. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned tooth, Nate. My favorite little video on Facebook I saw was they showed Ronaldo, the soccer player, and he gets touched and he goes down in agony and holding his shin and screaming. And they show this hockey player sitting on the bench, and his puck comes flying into the bench, hits him in the face, and he yanks out his tooth and he just goes out there and starts getting his next shift. It's great.
That's the difference between a hockey player and a soccer player.
Yeah.
Well, Sean Peverly, he's from the Stars here in Dallas. Several years ago, he had a heart attack on the bench. There was a medical emergency on the bench. He had a diagnosed heart condition. He literally codes on the bench. They stop the game. They start working on him. They get him in the ambulance. He wakes up and all that stuff. He's like, first question is, am I going to be back in time for the third period? No, dude. You should just be thankful you're alive. That's the first thing. I want to get back. So, but yeah,
that's a Marine mentality right there.
Exactly. But so that's really great to hear all those little hobbies you have. You have any other things you wanted to share with us tonight, Herman?
No, I appreciate all the support I get from people. It's humbling. It really is. All the kind comments, and it's a lot of fun. I'm retired now. It's almost coming up on a year now, and if I didn't have this to do, I don't know what I would be doing right now. I tell you, it keeps the brain plaque from forming.
Yeah. I know you're on Facebook. Every time I post a video up, Herman's like.
Yeah, I watch your stuff. I get on there. That's the only good thing about Facebook is I can keep track of all this gaming stuff.
That's true.
And
I just want to say I appreciate the support because there's like a handful of people I can count on to always like something when I put it up, and it's like you and Mo and a couple others. And I think you're now the fastest though. It used to be Mo, but you beat him out. I put the video up a couple minutes later. It's like.
Well, it's funny because when I'm working on a game and I'm on the computer, I will take a break, because you just start burning out, and I'll go right to my mail. I go to Facebook and see what's going on and everything. So yeah, I'm on there pretty quickly. What did David say? Remember, Herman, this week only on 10%. But I have to have the design done by next week.
One-time offer, so you got to commit to that one now while he's under the influence of medication to be able to get take advantage of that, and he won't be able to back on it. He won't be able to back out on it now because
it's in print.
It's here. It's recorded. It's not even in print. It's recorded. We'll have to bookmark that spot and make sure that everybody knows it's there. But no, we really appreciate you coming on, Herman, and we really appreciate all the work you do with your games, and they bring us a lot of fun. And that one of the things that, and I hope you didn't take it the wrong way. It was when I said, hey, I got some ideas for Dead Reckoning. It wasn't like, oh, this game sucks, here's ideas. It was just that it inspired me. I was like, wow, this is a fun game. This could be cool. This could be, we can make it bigger.
You don't have to worry about that, because for me, for somebody to take the time to actually think about the game and want to spend some time improving it, if you didn't like it, you would just say, well, the hell with this. I'm not bother wasting any time on it. So I take it as a compliment. So thank you.
If anything, Mo, both of us are supposed to be professional critiquers, right? This is what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not doing our job if we're not putting out the honest opinion.
Get the big pipe going here. Yeah, I'm a professional. Yes.
I will tell you what I like to see, and I've had more of recently, is when the designer comes back to me. There was a game I had reviewed over a year back, and the designer commented on it, and we started emailing back and forth, and I critiqued certain aspects of the game, and it turns out they took those critiques, they acknowledged them, ran with it, updated the game, and now they've improved it, and they're going to be re-releasing it, and they're coming to the market here with it. And he was like, look, I want to resend you the game, let you have the new copies so you can see the changes we made, show them to people, and see the updates that we've ran with. And I'm like, great. Awesome. Let's do it. I'm always happy to work with a designer. I don't want to just bash someone just to bash them. No.
And that's the worst mistake a designer can make, is not pay attention to feedback, not pay attention to criticism. Because most of the criticism is well meant, and these are huge projects. You can't get everything right all the time and account for. You can't get it all exactly balanced and right. And when somebody says something, hey, I appreciate the feedback. I want, and in fact, when I send games out for play testing or in play testing, I actually welcome negative feedback, because if everybody's telling me it's great right off the bat, I get a bad vibe, like they're either yesing me or something.
Did you play it? Did you actually play the game? There's got to be something in there.
Yeah,
that was something I was afraid of when I first started doing reviews, because I didn't want to hurt people's feelings, and I didn't want burn bridges in the industry. But then I realized, like, I'm not doing anyone any favors or service if I'm just blowing smoke up everyone's ass. I gotta say what I really think about X, Y, and Z, and it's up to the publisher and designer to take the criticism and run with it or not. You know, whether or not they agree with it, that's up to them. But it doesn't do anyone any good just to blow smoke.
No, absolutely not. And you guys come from an educated place, so that if you have something negative to say, I understand it comes from you playing the game and caring about it and analyzing it. You know, there's some guys that'll just, you know, they want to say something negative just because it's cool to say something negative, you know, and
well, that was one of the things that people have talked about. They were saying, and I think it would be kind of funny to do as a bit of a shtick, you know, would be doing like negative reviews. I would love to do, if I could do it, do like
a roast.
Like a roast negative review, like Ozzy Man does his Ozzy Man reviews, whatever. If you've not watched them, Herman, you got to go check it out. Go check out Ozzy Man reviews. Just Ozzy Man reviews. He's got his own channel and he's hilarious. He's like, oh yeah, he's got the whole Australian thing because he's Australian. He's got this like over the top way of talking about everything, and there's language and everything. So just be careful if there's, you know, anybody listening that checks it out. If you got little kids in the room, be careful. Put on headphones or something. You don't want your kids hearing the language, but friggin' brilliant. The guy is hilarious as hell.
All right, I'll check it out.
So, yeah, he's worth watching. But again, you know, thanks a lot, Herman, for coming and spending time with us. Really appreciate it. And everybody in the audience, thank you guys for being here. Nate, thanks for being here. And unfortunately, Kev couldn't join us tonight, but he will be in our next show, which we have still scheduled. But again, everybody, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it tonight. And we will see you on the next episode. Good night, everyone.